Hey everyone, I'm Paul Slack with Vindy Digital, and I'm super excited for you to join us today for our B2B Marketer's Guide to Demand Generation. You know, this topic is really important because of the huge shift in the way that B2B buyers actually buy things today. But unfortunately, many B2B companies are falling behind because they're still using outdated marketing tactics that just aren't as effective anymore. And we've got to get this right if we're going to have success growing our pipeline and marketing sourced revenue. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to walk you through a simple 3-step playbook that we use for our clients that are going to help you increase demand and pipeline quality. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, a key part to this is we have to understand that our buyers are on a journey, and it's complicated. They've got this challenge that they can't overcome on their own, right? And they need help. On top of that, they've got a lot of people that are involved in the decision-making process, and they've got a lot of vying opportunities, or I'm sorry, a lot of other issues that they're dealing with, rather, that are vying for their attention. So it's not just this one challenge, it's a lot of other challenges, and they're trying to prioritize what challenge is going to get their attention. On top of that, they've got tremendous amounts of resources and information available to them, unlike they ever had before. And that's a problem, right, too. You know, it's information overload. And so our customers have this journey that they're on, and it's a challenging journey. And that's really where we come in, because our success as B2B marketers is predicated on our ability to help them on this journey. Let me say that again. Our success as B2B marketers is predicated on our ability to help our buyers on their journey. And so really, demand generation at its core is about buyer enablement, basically helping our customer along this journey. And so really, our goal as B2B marketers is to be seen by our ideal customer profiles as the go-to resource, if you will, for our industry as it relates to the things that we want to be known for. And that's really what it's all about. It's not about trying to get people into our funnel. It's really to be seen as the resource for our buyers when they have a problem that they can think about, well, that's the company I need to call to help me with that. And so that's really what we're trying to accomplish. And I talk about how these journeys that these buyers are on are challenging. They really are. Take a look at this study that Google or Gartner recently did, where they went out to B2B buyers and they just simply asked them, hey, how challenging was your last major B2B purchase? And 77% of them said not only was the last purchase challenging, but it was extremely challenging. And so that's what our buyers are going through. And our job is to help them along this journey. And to say it's complicated is really underrated, because take a look at this. This is the journey that our buyers are going through. And this is all the different touch points that they have to go through to make an informed purchase decision. And what makes it even more complicated for us as B2B marketers is all of these blue dots are places where they're going to get information and to learn how to solve their problems where they're completely anonymous to us. In fact, they're going out there and learning on their own, and they may be in market for what we sell or do, but we have no clue that they're in market for what they sell or do. And this is what you've heard a really popular term this year is, dark funnel or dark social. And that's really what this is all about. It's when our buyers are engaged in the buying process and we as a vendor really don't know that they're in market. And the reason that we don't know that they're in market is because they're not talking to our sales reps right away. In fact, according to Gartner, they are 80% through the buying journey before they decide to reach out to our sales reps. I know it's the start of football season, and the Cowboys did terrible on Sunday, but it's been that way for 25 years, and it's hard to be a Cowboy fan, but I won't go there. But anyways, I'm going to use a football analogy, right? So our customers are basically on the 20-yard line getting ready to score a touchdown before they ever reach out to our sales reps. And that's why most of their journey is anonymous to us. And so we have to think about what are they doing from their end zone on their side of the field all the way to the 20-yard line on our side of the field. And that's where marketing needs to play, because here's the big shift and hopefully a big aha moment for many of you watching the webcast today. And that is that creating demand has really shifted from sales to marketing. But many B2B companies still feel like that demand generation is a sales function, not a marketing function. And here's what I mean by that. So I'm actually an old sales guy from the 90s. I got started in technology sales back in 1990. And we did create demand. It was on us as a sales organization to create demand. The internet didn't really exist back then, certainly not the way it does today for B2B companies. And in order for a customer to be aware that we existed, sales reps had to make phone calls, they had to go on lunches, they had to do all the things that a sales rep does. Now, that was the hard part, but the good news was back then that we had all the access to knowledge. And so they needed to meet with us in the 90s, and really I would submit to you into the early 2000s as well, because the salesperson was the source of knowledge. If the customer had a problem and they didn't know how to solve it on their own, they would talk to a salesperson who would give them information on how to do that. Well, fast forward to 2022, and we're really looking at a different world today altogether. All that information is available to them without a sales rep being involved, and so as a result of that, they are pushing that decision to talk to a salesperson until the very last minute. And that's where marketing comes in, and why marketing really needs to take the lead on creating demand for customers. And to drive that point a little bit farther down the road here, it's now taking 31 touches from a customer first becoming aware that we exist to actually wanting to do business with us. 31 touches. Now, if they're pushing talking to sales until the very end, that means that the vast majority of those touches really need to happen as a marketing function and not a sales function. But really, when we think about marketing, our job, as I talked about at the beginning of the presentation, is predicated on our ability to help them along their journey. And so the touches that we're going to be doing as a marketing department are really to support them in what they're trying to do. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself, I do want to introduce you to Andrea Talamontes. She's one of our senior social strategists at Vendi Digital, and she's going to be manning chat for me today. And so maybe you've already introduced yourself to her, but she's going to be there answering questions as we go through the information today. In fact, I would encourage you guys to chat it up as I'm going through all this material, and just, let Andrea know things that you like or things that maybe you disagree with or have a different point of view on. Also chat any questions that you have, and she'll do the best she can to get those answered for you. In fact, why don't you just go ahead and chat right now and introduce yourself to the rest of the folks that are on the live webcast, and just let them know who you are, maybe what you're having for lunch, or whether you're drinking coffee or water, and what part of the country you're in. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But as we go through the material, Andrea will answer questions, and then she's going to tee up some questions for me at the very end that I'll actually answer live. Many of you also submitted questions to me as I was getting ready for the presentation today, and I certainly appreciate that. And I've taken some of those and I've teed those up as well. We'll review those at the very end. Also, I always include this slide whenever I do a webcast, because I always forget to let you know that yes, and absolutely, we do have slides available for you so that you can follow along as I go through the material today. You can get those at vendidigital.com/go. vendidigital.com/go. When you go to that URL, you'll go to this page. Just scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see right there's the slides that I'm actually going through today, along with some other resources that I'll talk to you about a little bit later on in the presentation. Also, while we're just kind of taking care of some housekeeping items, I wanted to let you know that we do a monthly meetup. It's called the Demand Gen Jam Sessions. Every single month. Our next one is coming up on October the 11th at 12 o'clock Central Time. And there's a link to actually register for that on that same page, that vendidigital.com/go. And I would highly encourage everybody to go ahead and register for that. There was a huge announcement that Google made back in August on the helpful, friendly content update that they're calling it. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit today, but in October, we're actually going to do a deep dive on this update, and I'm going to walk you through what you need to know about it and really what you need to do with your blogs to really get them in alignment with what Google's looking for. Because I think moving forward, your blogs are really going to be a huge part of what's going to get you good ranking in Google as a result of this update. So be sure to register for that. Okay, well, that's the housekeeping items. Let's get back to the primary topic of today, which is demand generation. And I want to give you some things that we need to think about stop doing and then some things that we should start doing as well. And so, one of the things that I want us to think about as we try to generate demand for our business in 2023 is we've got to stop gating everything. In other words, all of our great content can't really live on our websites anymore, and certainly can't live behind a form. And I'm going to talk to you about some good options that we can look at later on in the presentation. But right now, we need to stop thinking about gating all of our great content and putting it on our website. But a much better thing to do would be to take all that great content and actually unlock it, okay, make it available on our website, but also repurpose it and make it available in all the channels where our customers are going to learn. But by repurposing it, we've got to put it in channel appropriate formats. And so take the great content, you've already got it there, unlock it, and then repurpose it and get it out there where customers are going to learn. This is really important because remember, they don't want to talk to your sales reps until the very end. And so we're going to have to do some of the work as a marketing department. And this is really going to drive the point home, I think, with this study that LinkedIn did, where they went out to B2B buyers and they basically asked the question, hey, what is it that you want from a company before you're ready to reach out to their sales department? So what are the things? They actually had like 10 things that were on the report, but these are the top 3 I wanted to share with you today. So the number one thing that a B2B buyer is looking for before they reach out to your sales reps is they want to know that you understand their industry and their business before they talk to sales, right? So us as marketers, we've got to communicate to our buyers that we really get them, right? And then move on to number 2. Not only do we get their industry, but they also want to know that we are subject matter experts. Like, we really know how to overcome their challenges. We really understand our industry and how to apply what we do to help them accomplish what they're trying to do. And then number 3, they want to see that we are providing useful information. And so a huge part of generating demand in 2023 is going to be, delivering on these things that the buyer is looking for. Okay, so here's another old way, new way. So an old way is thinking about forcing all of our buyers through our marketing funnel. The reality is those marketing funnels are an illusion anyways. They never really existed. We can't make a buyer do something that we want them to do or force them through our process. That's really not going to work anymore. What we want to do is think about really how do we empower our buyers to win, right? And so it's not us that's the hero. It's really our customer becomes the hero of the story, and we need to think about all the things that they're going to need to overcome this challenge and accomplish what it is that they're trying to accomplish, and then make sure that we've prepared and provided all that information for them. And when we do that, we're going to be in a much better position to help them win, and when they're ready to talk to sales, they're going to be thinking about us first. So to try to put that in the proper perspective, this is kind of what they're thinking or looking for from us, right? They're saying to us, hey, help me know what's wrong in my business. Help me understand why it's happening. Help me understand what I need to do to fix it. Give me the information that I need. Give me tools and resources that are going to help me. And yes, give me access to deeper knowledge, and even give me access to your sales reps when I'm ready to talk to them. And then finally, do it in a way that I like. And this is a big one down here. And do it in channels that I prefer. Okay, so that's what we need to do. We don't want to move people through our marketing funnel, but rather we want to empower them to be successful. Another old way, new way thing we need to think about is we need to stop thinking about running campaigns and actually start thinking about being always on. And so I love this little picture here because, we can't go to the gym and do curls once a month and expect to have giant biceps, right? If we're going to have giant biceps, if that's the goal that we're looking for, we've got to go to the gym every day and we've got to work on it. And the same is true in the world of demand generation. I literally had a company reach out to us a couple of weeks ago, and they asked us if we thought that it would make sense for them to run a campaign in LinkedIn with a 25% offer for 9 days to a cold audience. And I basically told them there's no way that's ever going to work, right? And that's not the way that this channel works, and that's not the way that our buyers are expecting us to interact with them today. What they're wanting us to do is be always on, and so that's really where we're trying to go with this. Another old way thing, and this ties right back to what I mentioned earlier about sales reps creating demand and now marketers needing to create demand, is when sales reps are trying to create demand for your business, They're fighting in a bloody red ocean that is almost impossible for them to be successful for. So this is a great example. It did not take me very long to find an example that I wanted to put in the presentation today. But here's a poor sales rep trying to create demand by fishing in a big old ocean and thinking that, well, maybe I might be interested in what they have to sell. And you can see right here, I'm just going to highlight it in yellow. How many of us get emails like this today? They drive me crazy, right? So he says, following up on my previous email, as they tend to slip through the cracks. No, your email didn't slip through the cracks at all. I didn't respond because I have no interest in what you're selling. And so that's the problem with trying to have sales reps create demand today. This company doesn't get that, and that's why they've got their sales reps reaching out over and over again to people that have no interest in what they're trying to sell. And so the big difference between, having your sales reps create demand and marketing focus on demand, what happens is when we empower our buyers to win and we give them the information they need to succeed and overcome challenges, your sales reps no longer need to send out cold emails, but what they end up doing is following up with people that are raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm ready to go, I need your help, and I want to talk to you. Okay, so these are two great examples that have come to us this year of people that literally just reached out to me on direct message inside of LinkedIn and said, hey, I've been following you guys for a long time. I need help. I'm ready to talk. And so in the future world and where we're trying to go, these are the types of leads you want to give your sales reps. So have them stop sending out cold emails and rather following up with people that are raising their hand. Here's the reality. We can't control what that trigger is, what that compelling event is that's going to cause a buyer to go from what we call a future buyer to a now buyer, right? We can't control that. And so what we can control is that they think of us first and they reach out to us because in their mind, we are the preferred vendor. And that's really what demand generation is all about. So let me give you a quick equation for try to bring all this into perspective for us. So when we're trying to create demand, it starts with understanding who is the right audience. And so we don't want to sell to everybody, right? We maybe want to, let me rephrase that. We may want to sell to anybody that wants to buy our services, but when we market, we want to market to our ideal customers. We want to understand what is that subset of our customer base that we can absolutely serve the best, the ones that buy our products or services, that love what we do. That's who we really want to market to. So when we say right audience, it's not everybody that can sign a check, but truly the people that we can serve the best. So it starts there. And then we move into always on insightful content. So really understanding what is the information they need to make these informed purchase decisions, and let's make sure it's always available to them and it's readily available to them. But we can't stop there, right? We've got to have this awesome content, but the content absolutely must point to our unique selling proposition, or the thing that makes us unique and stand out in the marketplace, the thing that makes us different, right? And so we have to have great content, but ultimately that content has got to point to our USP. And when we've done those things correctly, we absolutely will create demand. Okay, I mentioned that we're going to go through a playbook today, and I'm actually going to walk you through the Vendy Digital Demand Gen playbook, and we're going to focus on these three pillars over on the right side. So activate your audience, establish authority, nurture relationships, and then we're going to jump down here to the very bottom, that circle, you'll see retargeting, and that's where we're going to focus our attention today, because these really are the plays that are going to make a big difference for you in 2023. And so just at a high level, activate your audience just simply means going out to where your customers are, making them aware of that you exist, and getting them excited about your brand and how you can help them. The goal of activate your audience rather is to get them into that next pillar, which is establish authority. And the goal there is to really validate to the customer that we are qualified to solve their problem, that we've got a plan forward. And not only are we qualified, but we actually have empathy. We care about solving their problem. And then that third pillar on the right, or the fourth total pillar, if you will, is the nurture relationships pillar. And so, as I mentioned already, we can't control when that buyer is going to be ready to say yes, but there are things that we can do to make sure that when they are ready, they reach out to us first, and that's what we want to do. And then finally, retargeting. How can we leverage this amazing technology as a way of moving people down through the funnel, especially if we're going to stop gating as much as we have in the past? And so let's go ahead and jump into the first one, which is activate your audience. And so when we think about activating our audience, again, the goal is let's get in front of our target audience. Let's go where they like to hang out, and let's give them information that's going to be helpful to them. And so that's really kind of step one. We need to understand what information is going to help our particular customer. And then from there, we need to distribute that information organically and paid. And so we have to have a plan on how we're going to get this information to them on the organic side of things, and then how are we going to get it to them on the paid side of things. And then from there, we need to leverage influencers. So influencers are basically anybody that has the ear of our customer. That could be podcast hosts. That could be people that are well-known in social media. It could also be your employees. It could be the C-levels in your organization. But when you're leveraging helpful information, you're sharing it organically and paid, and you're leveraging influencers, you will have an activated audience. So here's some enemies of being successful activating your audience. And if you're not having success doing that, maybe it's one of these reasons. One of the biggest ones that I run across all the time is too much of a bottom focus, or bottom of the funnel focus rather. So, I talk to customers all the time or companies all the time, and they only want to go after now buyers, right? That's all they want to go after. They want to generate leads with now buyers. They don't care about anybody that's not currently actively pursuing their solution, and that's a real mistake. Number two, an enemy is me versus you. If all of your messaging is talking about how great you are and really not talking about establishing your customer as the hero, that's a big miss. A lack of consistency, right? This goes back to that gym, right? If you're going to the gym and doing curls once a month, you're just not going to be successful. Poor content marketing or no content marketing is next. And so we've got to have, and I'm going to spend some time on this in this section here, but we've got to have a strategy that is connected all the way from, activate your audience through your website and beyond if we're going to be successful in getting the right message across. And then finally, having a good balance between paid and organic. And so we don't want to put all of our eggs in the organic basket. That's not going to work. And we don't want to put all of our eggs in the paid basket either. That's not going to work. So we have to have a good balance, and we'll talk about those things. So let's move on and just cover, why do we not want to just market on to the folks that are in market right now, this bottom of the funnel approach, right? It's much better to market to all of our customers all the time. And here's the biggest reason why. At any given time, only 1 to 5% of our customers, your customers and my customers, are actually in market, which means that 95% of our customers have no interest in what we're doing right now. Well, they certainly don't have interest in talking to us about buying our services, right? They might have interest in what we're doing, but they're not in market right now. And so if we want to be successful in the world of demand generation, especially in light of the fact that they're not ready to talk to us about doing a deal until they're on the 20-yard line, then what we need to do is come up with a way that we can be useful and meaningful and valuable to them 100% of the time. And so we've got to market to all of our customers all the time. And this is huge because according to TechTarget, 91% of the customers or companies that they surveyed said that they purchased, 91% purchased from the first vendor that added value. And so that's not going to happen when they're in market. If you want to be the first vendor to add value to a company, you're going to have to reach out to them before they're in market, when they're those future buyers, and add value there. That's where the opportunity is to really create demand. And so when we're thinking about activating our audience, these are the things we need to do. Number one, we need to be more of a teacher than a seller, right? So it's not about offers, it's about information and sharing knowledge. We need to talk about problems that they have and the solutions to those problems. We need to provide real business value to them, even if they're not ready to buy from us today. And so whenever we're delivering information to our audience and we're talking to future buyers, we want them to consume that information and think to themselves, that was helpful, that was valuable, that was a good use of 1 minute of my day or 10 minutes of my day or whatever, even if they're not ready to buy from us today. If you're not delivering information that's valuable to them, that's going to help them, it's not worth it to even publish it, right? So we've got to deliver information that provides business value to them. And then finally, when we're activating our audience, we've got to humanize what we're doing. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And they're pushing off talking to sales, so we've got to humanize our brand, and we've got to do that in the activate your audience phase. Now, when we do these things correctly, good things are going to happen. Number one, they're going to remember the problem that we solve, right? They're going to value our point of view on how we would go about solving that problem. And number three, they're going to believe that when they're ready to buy, that we are the preferred vendor or the best vendor for them. Could we ask for anything more than that? For our prospects to remember who we are, the problem that we solve, to value our point of view, and to believe that we're the best choice for them? That's the opportunity that we really have when we do demand generation the right way. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. We're still talking about activating your audience, but I do want to touch on this huge announcement that Google made at the end of August that they're calling the helpful content update. The Google Helpful Content Update. It was announced at the end of August, and it's going to have a big impact on search results. And it's important that we understand it because B2B buyers are absolutely using Google during their decision-making process. In fact, nearly 90% of the time, they're going to use Google at some point to help them get some information that they need, and it's important that we are there too. So let's take a little bit of a dive into this announcement. Here's the actual announcement page from their website. And I just want to highlight one thing here because I think it's going to shed some light on this. So you'll see here what I've got highlighted. It says, to ensure people see more original, helpful content written by people for people. And the reason I highlighted that is I think when I read this, the first thing that jumped to my mind is this is really Google battling all of the AI written content that's out there today. Because do you see what it says, written by people, for people? And so I think there's just so much of that happening as a result of some of the tools that are out there to help write content that they're going to really try to identify that stuff and push it down in the search results. And so that's what I think the battle is about. But I think there's opportunities for us that I want to cover real quick. As you go farther down in the document, there's some questions that they posed for us to think about as it relates to our content and whether or not we're going to do okay as a result of this algorithmic change. Here's the first question. Does your content clearly demonstrate firsthand expertise and a depth of knowledge? Does your content clearly demonstrate a firsthand expertise and depth of knowledge? So that's one of the things they want to make sure when we're publishing information that we're showing, yeah, we are subject matter experts. Now, isn't this nice that this aligns really well with what buyers want from us when they're going through their buyer journey? Do you remember that study that I shared a few minutes ago from LinkedIn that said they want to know that we're subject matter experts? And now here's Google basically saying the same thing. They're saying, hey, we want to know that when you write something that you're a subject matter expert about what you're writing about. Here's the next question. Does your site have a primary purpose or focus? This is really important, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit later, but what's key here is we don't want to write about everything. We really want to pick 3 to 5 content pillars where we are subject matter experts, and it's really clear that we are. So when Google comes and crawls our site or reads our site, they can see, for us, hey, that's a B2B digital agency. I get that because when I read their site and read their content, it all kind of points in that direction. Here's the next question. Will the reader feel they have learned enough about the topic? And so they went on to say in this section of the announcement, they don't want a reader to go to Google, do a search, find your content, land on your website, read your content, and then feel like they didn't get the answer that they were looking for and have to go back to Google and do another search or refine their search. And so it's really important that we think about when we're creating content that we're really answering the question that we're showing up for or ranking for. And so as it relates to that, here's some things we might want to stop doing immediately if we are doing it. Number one, writing for search engines instead of humans. Okay, so I'm not saying that we don't want to optimize our websites. We absolutely do want to optimize our websites. That's really important. But the key is we've got to write for people first and search engines second. Number two, we don't want to write on lots and lots of topics, right? We need to go back to those 3 to 5 content pillars that I just mentioned and make sure that the things that we write about are staying within those lanes. Number three, we don't want to summarize what other people have already written, right? So it's okay to talk about I'm not the only B2B digital marketing agency in the world, right? There's lots and lots of other B2B digital marketing agencies. So I can still talk about things like demand generation or social selling or B2B social media marketing. I can talk about those things, but what I don't want to do is just regurgitate what somebody else is saying. I want to share my point of view, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. So again, I can't go into great depth today, but if this is of interest to you, please join us on October the 11th. That's what the whole focus of our Demand Gen Jam session will be about, and it's at 12 o'clock Central Time. You can register for that at vendidigital.com/go. We'll do a real deep dive on that, and specifically, we're going to go into your blogs and how to get your blogs to align with what Google is looking for. My bet is if we get our blogs in alignment, they're going to rank really, really well in search moving forward, and they're going to be a great top of the funnel source of traffic for our businesses, which is a key part of activating our audience. So really, here's the key point to all of that. We need to create original and valuable content around those 3 to 5 content pillars, and they really need to tie to something that we are truly subject matter experts about. And I'm going to give you a quick analogy here, and I'm going to also date myself. So when I was in high school, The Karate Kid came out, and we need to be like Mr. Miyagi here, right? So Daniel had a challenge that he was trying to overcome, and he found Mr. Miyagi, and Mr. Miyagi gave him a lot of useful information on how to overcome that challenge. Mr. Miyagi didn't talk about how to get better grades in school or how to get along better with his siblings. He didn't talk about those things. He talked about one thing, and that was how Daniel could overcome this very specific challenge. And that's really what we need to be doing when we think about our content marketing. Now, the key to all of this, the one thing that we can do that will make us truly unique against all of our competitors is basically sharing our point of view, because truly your point of view is unique and my point of view is unique, and that's really what Google's looking for, and quite frankly, that's what our buyers are looking for. So let me walk you through a quick little framework that we use with our clients to help them think through what their point of view should be on certain issues. So it always starts with those 3 to 5 content pillars. So what are those things that you want to be writing about or talking about that you're truly a subject matter expert on? And then from there, you want to answer these questions. The first question is, what's broken in your ideal customer profile's business? Based on this particular pillar, what's broken in their business? Like let's say demand generation might be a pillar. So what's broken in what you're seeing in your ideal customer profile's business as it relates to demand generation? Those are things you should be writing about. And then from there, we want to move into the next point, which is based on what you see, Mr. Company, right? Why is it happening? So this is what's broken, but why is it happening in their business? What's causing it to be broken? And then from there, you want to move into, okay, now that we know what's causing it to be broken, what would you do to fix it? If you were hired by them to fix it, what are the things that you would do to actually create, effect a cure or get this fixed for them? And then the last step is, how are you going to prove that your plan is actually going to work? And so if you want to create really awesome content that your customers are going to love in this activate your audience phase, that Google is also going to love based on this new helpful content update, we really need to think about, what is our point of view as it relates to those 3 to 5 content pillars? And that's going to help you a lot. And let me summarize really this content marketing section as we talk about activating your audience by just trying to give you an illustration here. So, it starts with those pillars we've been talking about. And from there, you want to inform your long-form content. So your long-form content should be your blogs. It should be webcasts or webinars just like this one you're watching today. It could be case studies, it could be guides, ebooks, whatever those are. They need to stay within the lanes of your content pillars. And then from there, you want to repackage and repurpose all of that really great information into other types of formats. So text posts or infographics or videos or snippets and things like that. And that's what you ultimately end up sharing in social media or in those channels, those activate your audience channels. And so one big mistake I see a lot of B2B companies make is their content marketing strategy is not aligned outside of their website. And so what works so much better and what's going to help you moving forward is starting with those pillars and letting those pillars really influence what customers see wherever they go and interact with your brand. Here's some real recent data that I wanted to share with you that will hopefully put a cherry on top of this, and that is that according to Demandbase, that they went out to B2B buyers, and 84% of the B2B buyers that they surveyed said that the winning vendor's content had a significant impact on whether or not they decided to work with that particular vendor. And so content marketing really is the fuel that makes demand generation work. All right, I'm going to switch gears. We're still talking about activate your audience, but I am going to move into the distribution part of it here and just think about, specifically paid campaigns. And sometimes I feel like we make this way more complicated than it needs to be. And I'm going to try to really super simplify it for us, okay? And so really, number one, I've already established we want to be always on, right? We want to go to the gym every single day. We don't want to go to the gym once a week or once a month. And so whatever we do, we want to be always on. And then let's break the funnel into two sections. We've got top of the funnel, and let's just say that those people at the top of the funnel are people that really don't know that you exist. They don't understand, they don't know who your company is, they don't know the problems that you can solve for them. And then we've got the bottom of the funnel. These are people that know you exist and are somehow in your sphere, if you will. And so really, as we think about our paid strategy, we can break it into these two sections of the funnel. And at the top of the funnel, we have to answer the question, what is it that we want these folks to know, right? They don't know who we are, that we exist, or the problem that we solve. So what is the information that if they're our ideal customer, we want them to know about us, we want them to know about our industry, we want them to know about the problems that we can solve. And so that's really where we need to focus our attention in creating campaigns around top of the funnel or to a cold audience. Then at the bottom, what we're really trying to answer the question is, now that they know that, what do we want them to do next? And sometimes that means, talk to your sales reps or sign up for a webinar. Sometimes that may just mean getting involved in deeper level content, or maybe reading case studies or testimonials. And so there truly is different levels of content that we need to share with our buyers at the different stages that they're in. And so at the top of the funnel, our primary goal really is awareness. It's not traffic to our website. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but at top of the funnel, we're really trying to communicate key messages to our target customers. And the other thing that we want to do, especially in light of where the world is going, we want to build a retargeting pool. So much of our opportunities to get in front of buyers are in social media today, like LinkedIn. And some of the best campaigns in LinkedIn are only going to click through to your website at about 0.5% to 1%. And so we can't build our top of the funnel strategy on getting traffic to our website. But what we can build our top of the funnel strategy around is awareness, but building a retargeting pool. And then when we've done that well, we can create a new strategy around what do we want them to do next. And this is where pay-per-click and retargeting can really shine for us, because we know they're in market, they're looking for specific help, and we can point them in the right direction. So how does that land on budget, right? A lot of companies that I talk to, they're not doing anything top of the funnel with paid, and that's a real problem, because you can see right here, I'm recommending that you spend 60 to 70% of your digital marketing budget in top of the funnel. And the big reason for that is, remember that slide I shared a little bit earlier about 95% of your customers are not in market? That's a huge, giant market. We've got to spend more money to get our key messages in front of that giant market. And then as a result of that, we should only spend about 30 to 40% of our budget in bottom of the funnel, really focused on what do we want them to do next. And here's why all of that is so important. Buyers are not going to respond to you until they trust you first, right? And so I tell this to B2B companies all day, every day. I talk to hundreds of B2B companies a year, and they want to run these bottom of the funnel campaigns and to try to generate a lot of leads now. And I'm trying to convince them that you cannot take a stranger and ask them to get married on the first date. You've got to spend time really nurturing them with information that's valuable to them. And in doing so, you're going to build trust. And when you build trust with them over and over again, and then they see your offers, like, hey, come to a webinar like this one, they're going to be more apt or more likely to want to respond to that offer. And LinkedIn has done studies that really validate this, that this works a lot better. In fact, when you go and spend advertising dollars on a full funnel approach, meaning you're spending money top of the funnel, giving them information that you want them to know, and you're spending money bottom of the funnel, telling them what to do next, that your conversion rates are actually 6 times higher. 6 times higher when you do a full funnel approach versus a bottom of the funnel only approach. And quite frankly, I would submit to you that if you're only going after bottom of the funnel folks, people that are in market, that's going to be highly competitive, and it's going to be hard to maintain good margins and good closing rates because all of your competition is there too. Well, as you can kind of get a sense of this, I don't have time to do deep dives on all of these topics. I'm trying to give you an overview of the playbook today, but I am going to point you to great resources. And so this is another resource that you can get on that Go page, vendidigital.com/go. It's a planning resource that will walk you through in great depth all the different channels that are available at the different stages of the funnel and what kind of tactics will work in those channels and how much budget you really need to allocate for those. So please be sure to download that. Okay, let's look at some keys to success here as we're talking about paid. And this is really going to be top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel, so some general keys to success. Number one, we want to create ads that don't look like ads, right? So our goal isn't to create an ad that feels like an ad, but rather we want to create something that's going to stop the scroll, if you will, and get them to pay attention to what you have to say, which goes right into the second point here. We've got to think about when we're creating content for paid that they will be able to get the key message, the essence of what we want to communicate, that key point, without the click. And so we can't depend on clicks. That's something you've got to stop thinking about and say, how can I get this message across to them, even if they just happen to be scrolling on LinkedIn or something like that. Number three, we want to test, right? The great thing about all these platforms today, like LinkedIn, for example, or Google or any of them, right? They've got machine learning and AI that's going to help us optimize our campaigns. And so we don't want to just go in with a single message and a single set, one piece of creative to communicate that message. We want to test different headlines. We want to test long and short form copy. We want to test different creative and really see what's going to resonate the best with our audience. And then number five, we want to segment. I've already talked about how important it is to have an ideal customer profile, that we don't want to market to everybody, but a set of ideal customers. But even within those customers, we want to segment our audience so that we can call them out by name in our ads. And when we do, we get much better conversion rates than when we don't. So here's a few examples I just want to share with you of how this might look. So right here is just a top of the funnel ad that we're running or that we have run in the past. And you can see it's literally just a previous webinar, just like this one you're watching right now, where we sliced up some key points and we turned it into social content, and then we paid to distribute it to our ideal customers. And in this case, it's a problem solution message, which we found problem solution messages work super, super well. So that's an example. This is another example of top of the funnel, and I just wanted to share this one. This is from Gong. This is just really awesome creative. It's going to make you stop and pay attention, but they didn't stop there. They've got a really good headline that talks about a problem and a solution to that problem. This next example is a feature benefit example. And I do get this question a lot. It's like, hey, can we talk about our features? Is that okay, or is that wrong when we're talking about, running ads? And the reality is you can talk about your features, but only if you tie them to a benefit first. And so I think Zapier did a good job here where they start with close more deals, right? That's the benefit. And then they go in and say, with Zapier and LinkedIn lead gen forms. So one last thing as we're talking about paid, I just wanted to share with you, there's great opportunities for us to leverage what other people have done or even spy on our competition, on channels like LinkedIn. And you can do this in other places too. I'm just going to show you how to do it on LinkedIn. But I'm amazed at how many B2B companies don't realize that you can see what other people are doing from a paid ad perspective. And so this is how you do it. On LinkedIn, you just go to your competitor or any company, quite frankly, and you go to their company page, and then you click on posts right there. And then once you click on posts, you'll be able to click on ads. And when you do that, guess what you see? You get to see all the ads that they currently have running in market, and they're shown chronologically. So if you're looking for inspiration, one of the things you can do is actually go out and look at what your competition is doing. Maybe go to the category leader in your space and just see what kind of ads they're running. And I think you'll get some good inspiration there. Okay, so we've just talked through the activate your audience phase, and that's, getting in front of our buyer, letting them know we exist and excited about how we can help them. The next step is to get them over to our website so that we can establish authority and really validate that we're qualified to solve their problem. Now, there's three buckets here that I want to cover, and that is, number one, a great place to establish authority is your website. So in the activate your audience phase, one of our goals is to get people, out of those channels like social media or search and onto our website so that we can establish authority. Another place to do this is on our blog, and even with this new Google update I've talked about, that's going to become even more important. And then finally, community. Community really is a place where we can establish authority. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So how do we establish authority? Well, number one, we've got to make sure that the primary message that we're communicating out to our audience, especially at this stage, is, hey, Houston, you've got a problem. We've got an answer to your problem, and we can help you, right? We understand and get your problem, and we can help you with that. And we're going to give you a plan forward. So that's really the next step. So not only do we understand your problem, but we've condensed it down into a very simple process that's going to take you from where you are today to greener pastures tomorrow. The next step is we need to give them insights and proof. How can we validate that we actually are experts and we can get them to the promised land that they're looking for? And that's how we establish authority. So here's some enemies to establishing authority. Number one is having an unclear value prop. And man, I'm telling you, I don't know what it is about B2B companies. I look at hundreds of websites a year, maybe more than that. And I land on their website and I try to figure out what the heck this company does. And it's very unclear and it's very confusing. And that's a huge problem that we have in B2B. We've got to be more clear in our value prop. Poor or passive calls to action. This is a big problem. Like our primary call to action needs to be our cash register on our website. All roads need to point to that conversion element. And if we have passive call to action or poor call to action, we're going to miss out. Confusing copy. This ties right back to an unclear value prop. If we're using a lot of jargon, a lot of acronyms, way too many words, way too many pages, we're going to confuse our buyer rather than help our buyer. Same with busy navigation. We only want the things in that top navigation that are going to absolutely help that buyer on their journey to solving their problem. And then finally, a lack of a mid-funnel resource. Where our goal is to get people to fill our primary conversion form out, whatever that call to action is. But not everybody's a now buyer, right? Only 1% to 5% are. And so we need to have mid-funnel resources so that when they're early stage or maybe future buyers, we still have a way of converting them. And I'll talk about that more in a little bit. Okay, so let's just remember the goal of Activate Your Audience is to get them over to your website. And then once they're on your website, you've got like 5 seconds to communicate some really important things to them that are going to make them interested in learning more. And the first thing is you've got to clearly communicate what it is that you do in just plain old, good old English, right? And so, for example, here on our website, we say the digital partner for B2B marketers. So we're very clear on what we do and we're very clear on who we do it for. But we can't stop there. The next thing we have to answer is, what's in it for me? Okay, now I get what you do. How am I going to benefit from that? And you can see the next line underneath our primary headline is helping B2B companies fill their pipeline with more leads. And so we're telling our audience, hey, we work with B2B marketers and we're going to help you generate more leads and more pipeline. But we can't stop there. In the first 5 seconds, we also need to communicate what is their plan forward or how do they take the next step. And in our website, we say schedule a discovery meeting. And so literally, we've got 5 seconds to communicate it. That's all you've got. Make sure that you're answering those 3 questions very quickly. And then the bonus is if you can also talk about problems, right? So here's what we do. Here's what's in it for you. Here's how to take the next step. And by the way, do you have these problems? If you do, we can certainly help you. So your primary call to action has to be a part of your process. So when people are reading the copy on your website and you've got this call to action button in the top right nav, I hope, of your website, the copy on your site needs to point people to why they need to click that button. The sale you're trying to make on your website isn't the sale of your services. The sale you're trying to make on your website is to click the button, right? And so the copy on our website needs to help them know they need to click the button. And so the way that we think you should do that is by simplifying your process and giving them what we call a 3-step plan. So here's an example of our 3-step plan. We work this out with our clients and help them. Every business thinks their business is very complex. I hear that all the time. And quite frankly, it makes sense because I go look at these B2B websites and yeah, their website looks really complex. The reality is you can really simplify what it is that you do for buyers. And if we're going to help our buyers be the hero and accomplish their goals and objectives, we've really got to simplify our process. And so we call it a 3-step plan. Here's our 3-step plan on our website. It always starts with what's in it for them. And then you can see the very first step of our 3-step plan is our primary call to action. So schedule a discovery meeting. Hey, you want this problem to go away? Here's our 3 steps to make it go away. By the way, the first step is our primary call to action. Schedule a discovery meeting. Okay, we could go on and on. I could spend a whole hour just on website UX, and I don't have time for that. So we do have another great resource for you that we've just updated for 2023, and it's the website UX checklist for 2023. So it'll do a deeper dive on some of the stuff I just talked about, and then it'll also give you a great checklist that you can just go through and answer the questions on the checklist, and it'll give you hopefully some things to think about or some improvements that you might make on your website. So be sure to check that out. Okay, so we're talking about establishing authority here, and one of the mistakes that I mentioned, or one of the enemies, if you will, is lack of mid-funnel resources. But if you remember at the very beginning of the presentation, I also said we need to stop gating everything. So what are we going to do about that, right? We still need to win the mid-funnel. It's very valuable for our business, right? Because when we have mid-funnel assets that people are downloading from our website or consuming, it's going to help them clarify their thinking. It's going to help them be educated on our point of view on how to solve their problem. And it's also going to create reciprocity, right? When you've given value to someone, that makes them trust you more, and that's part of reciprocity. And so how do we solve for that, right? Because I'm saying we got to quit gating things, and I really do believe that. So I think the answer moving forward is all about community. I think community is the answer to our mid-funnel challenges moving forward. And I'm very, very excited about community. In fact, we're doubling down on community starting now. And actually, we started earlier this year, but we're really going to double down in 2023. And so when I'm talking about community, here's what I really mean, and here's kind of what we do in community. Number one, it gives us this tremendous opportunity to talk to our audience, to talk to our customers, because we're going to be in a network together, in a community together. And when we're talking to them, guess what happens? We actually build relationships with these future buyers. These future buyers that don't want to talk to our sales reps will talk to you, right? So you can build real relationships with them. And then from there, you can learn what their true challenges are. It's amazing how much perspective I get when I actually talk to a VP of marketing or a CMO about their problems and how much deeper they really are than the superficial things that we think we're talking about all the time. And so you really learn what their true challenges are. And when you learn those things, you're now able to figure out real ways that you can help them. You can't figure out real ways to help them until you really understand those deep, deep challenges that they're having. And guess what? Once you're able to do that, you can repackage up those answers to their real deep challenges into new content. And so by actually doing community the right way, I believe it creates a flywheel of customer insights that you're not going to be able to gain any other way. And remember, sales reps are now pushed off to the 20-yard line. This is the kind of stuff we need to be doing as marketing folks to engage with our customers and really help them as when they're future buyers and just in the early stages of trying to figure this stuff out. So some keys to success here are, number one, if we're going to generate or actually be in a community or start a community, it has to be a no sales zone. We can't be selling to our customers here. It's got to absolutely be about helping them. And so we want to be a connector. Like our goal is to help introduce people to other folks in the community and to make sure that they have a good time and they get to know one another. We also want to share observations. One of the great things about being a vendor in hosting a community is you've got all these other customers that you can listen to and hear about, and you can share, observations on what's going on. And that's something that your community members wouldn't be able to get unless they were part of your community. You can ask questions, and it's really important to get dialogue going within a community and then encouraging discussion. That's one thing that I'm really working hard on right now, is getting community members to actually talk to one another and build relationships with one another and discuss topics amongst themselves where maybe we're not even a part of that conversation. And so when you think about community as the new marketing qualified lead, there's four components to it, in my opinion. The first one is a group. You've got to have a group. Right now, our group lives on LinkedIn. It's called the Demand Gen Jammers Group, and I'll certainly send you information on how you can join that group if you like, or you can look it up on LinkedIn. We are going to move the group, though, out of LinkedIn into a new platform in October. More on that later. I'm not super happy with how LinkedIn manages groups, so I'm going to move it off. But you can go ahead and join there on LinkedIn if you like. But you've got to have a group. That's like first component, number one. Number two, you need to have reoccurring meetups. And so the way we do that is we have a monthly meetup that we call the Demand Gen Jam Session. But then I also try to meet up with group members one-on-one or one-to-many as much as I can. In fact, I had lunch with a couple of group members last month, and I'm on the phone with planning sessions a lot with group members. And so it's a way for those group members to kind of get free consulting from you, or really just kind of more information. And so I really encourage that. And that meetup component is really important. You can't just have a group. You need to have a meetup as well. And then you need to encourage those peer connections that I talked about. So, you can't just have a one-way conversation with you and your community. You want your community to start talking to one another. And then finally, and this is really important, it's going to tie to this whole MQL concept, that we've got to be able to provide resources. And so now, instead of gating all the stuff that you've had out there in the past, where they have to fill out a form to get the ebook or the guide, now what you're saying is join our group, join our community. When you join our community, you're going to get all of these resources for free. You're not going to have to opt in every time you want one. It's just going to be there and available for you. So think about a community and how you might be able to leverage community as a way of solving for establishing authority and solving for having really good solutions for that mid-funnel. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next pillar here, which is nurture relationships. And really our goal with nurture relationships is just to stay top of mind, because we can't control when a buyer is going to be ready to say yes, but what we can do is control that when they are ready to say yes, that they think of us first. And so step one is we've got to have a frictionless buyer journey, right? We've got to look at everything, all those touch points that a buyer is going to have with us, and make sure that we're removing all the possible friction that we can. We've got to empower our sales reps to do the things that they can do to really stay top of mind. And then we've got to provide marketing automation as a way of staying top of mind, because let's face it, email is still very, very important. I know a lot of people are trying to say that email is dead. I do not agree with that at all. Email is a very important way to communicate with our customers. And when we do that, we have a nurtured relationships. So here's the simple point. The company that makes it easier to say yes is the company that's going to win, right? So it's critical that we think about our business and try to remove all the friction that we can from our buyer's journey. And so this is some of the enemies to that. One, poor conversion forms, right, where we ask for a million things, or we don't tell them why they need to fill out the form, or it's not clear on how filling out this form is going to help them in their journey. We can't pitch slap them, right? And this is a big problem. When we were focused on gated MQLs and you would give an MQL lead to a sales rep, that feels like you're pitch slapping that customer, and that doesn't work at all. But at the same time, and we also don't want to spam our customers. Email marketing is important, but we don't want them to feel like we're spamming them. And then finally, the opposite of that, we don't want them to feel ghosted. I see this all the time where people are complaining about filling out a form on a B2B company's website and they get no response back, right? That's terrible. And so these are things that really are the enemy. Now, one quick thing you can go look at to see if you're doing a good job in providing a frictionless buyer journey is just go look in your Google Analytics and look at navigation paths, and you can actually see where people are going when they land on your homepage or any page of your website. And one of the things I like to do is go look at the homepage and see, are people going to my primary call to action page? Is it like one of the top pages, and is it a nice percentage? So you can see on our website here that 21% of the folks that land on our homepage are actually going to our primary conversion form, and that's what we're looking for. Now, on the actual conversion form itself, this is a huge miss that we see all the time. You're not selling the conversion. You're not selling what it is that they're going to get when they take the time to fill out this form. Remember, it's about fair exchange of value. They're going to give up their information. They're also going to give up their time because they're going to meet with you. You need to be really clear on what they're going to get in exchange for that, and it's got to be super valuable to them. And so you need to do some selling on why they need to fill out the form and what's in it for them. And that's what we do on our website. We clearly tell them what's going to happen when they fill out our form. Okay, not to pick on anybody, but this is not a frictionless form. This is literally a form that a company that I'm aware of requires you to fill out, even to sign up for a webinar. Okay, so at the end of the day, you want to have fair exchange of value. You only want to have the fields in there that really matter for you to be able to deliver the value that you're promising. Okay, so where does this leave email? In my mind, email is very important, as I've already mentioned, and it really is primarily a content distribution channel, not a spam channel. Okay, direct response is really secondary to delivering useful information. Remember, our goal is to get in front of our buyers and help them on their journey. Email is just a vehicle to accomplish that. And so one of the things that we do is we have this campaign that we call the Around the World campaign that is just really a drip nurture campaign that's focused on delivering value to customers. And it starts with, email number 1 is a tip, email number 2 is a resource, email number 3 is a blog that might be useful to the customer, and then email number 4 might be a call to action, but it ties to a need that they have. And so we've got this as a control document. I did not include that actually in that resource page, but I will email that out to everybody. It's called the Around the World Control Doc, so I'll just include that in the follow-up email. I just now thought about that. So I'll get that out to you guys. That hopefully will help you think about how to make your drip marketing campaigns much more valuable to your buyers. Okay, so let's cover the last topic here before we jump into the Q&A section. And hopefully you've been having a good conversation and dialogue with Andrea as we've gone through the material today. But retargeting is really a critical part of our process moving forward in the world of demand generation. And the reason why it truly is kind of a secret weapon moving forward is, we're getting rid of that gated ebook. And so if we're going to not have gated ebooks anymore as part of our mid-funnel, then we still need to know that people are in market, and retargeting is a way to accomplish that. And so you may not be aware of this. Many people think of retargeting as, I went to Amazon, I put some shoes in a shopping cart, I didn't buy it, and then wherever I go, those shoes are following me around. And that's kind of a B2C example, but in the world of B2B, retargeting is incredibly powerful. So you can actually retarget people that visit your website, that have engaged with your social media content, that have attended events in the past, or just your CRM or email list. And so all of those are places where you can build a retargeting, what's called a retargeting pool. And that's awesome. So it's not just people that visited your website, it's all these other things too. Now, I'm a huge fan of retargeting on LinkedIn, and the reason I love to retarget on LinkedIn is they're the only platform that allows you to add a firmographic overlay. So you can take all the people that visited to your website and shake them out by looking at of all the people that went to my website, these are the ones that fit my ideal customer profile. And then from there, I can deliver a mid-funnel or that, remember that when I talked about what do you want them to know, what do you want them to do? So now I want to give them that what do I want them to do content that's going to point them ultimately to converting when they're ready to convert. And so the key point to retargeting is, and the way I want you to start thinking about retargeting, is it's a way of supercharging all of the other marketing activities that you're doing. Pay-per-click is really, really expensive. And so what's great about retargeting is you can drive people to your website with pay-per-click, but then you can retarget them on other platforms like LinkedIn if they're the right fit with a better or different message, which really extends the life and gets more value out of all those channels. And I'll end with a quick case study on how that works. So we love Twitter, believe it or not. Twitter is a great platform for us because we can get really qualified traffic at a very low cost. On Twitter, you can target people based on hashtag, and you can target people based on key phrase. And so we go out to Twitter and we run content top of the funnel. What do we want them to know? and then we get traffic back to our website at about 13 cents a click, which is really, really cheap. And then what we do from there is once they come into our website, they get added to a retargeting pool. Okay, and then we go and overlay a LinkedIn firmographic fit to look for our ideal customer profile. And then guess what? They get invited to this event. And so we're running ads on Twitter with the hopes of getting people to register for an event on LinkedIn. And that's kind of an example of how retargeting done right can really help grow leads and pipeline for your business. Okay, so we've talked about the playbook here. Again, we started with activate your audience, and really how do we get in front of the right buyer with the right message at the right time and get them excited about our business. And then we move from there over to establish authority, which is primarily done on our website, our blog, and community, where we're really validating we are qualified to solve this problem for them. And then from there, we move into nurture relationships because we know they exist. They're in our community. They're part of our website. What are the things we're going to do to stay top of mind? And then we talked about retargeting and how do we leverage retargeting as a way of moving people down the funnel. And so I'm going to wrap the presentation and we'll move into Q&A with this quick little analogy. So I can summarize, I've been talking, I went on a couple of tangents here. I've been talking for about an hour, and I'm going to summarize everything that I said in like 3 or 4 slides. Just think about demand generation is like a popcorn popper, okay? What we want to do is basically take our target audience and put them in the popcorn popper. Those are the kernels. Then we want to heat them up with content, right? Top of the funnel content, what do we want them to know? Bottom of the funnel content, what do we want them to do? We want to be Mr. Miyagi, right? We want to make sure that that information's helpful and useful and going to help them in their journey, right? We're going to help them buy and win. And then when they're ready to pop, they're going to pop out of the popcorn popper, and those are the leads we're going to hand off to sales because that's the leads that sales wants. And quite frankly, that's when the buyer is going to be ready to buy. The biggest challenge that you're having today, if you're struggling generating leads, is you're treating popcorn, unpopped kernels like pop kernels. And you're sending people that aren't ready to buy over to your sales department, and your sales department is saying, this lead has no interest in what we're doing. The reality is it's probably a great lead. It just needs to stay in that popcorn popper a little bit more. So quit handing your sales team popcorn kernels and own the fact that marketing owns demand generation, and we've got to be out there helping our buyers get from point A to point B, those greener pastures that they're looking for. And when we do that, we're going to win in 2023. Okay, I'm going to give you some quick homework and then we'll jump into the Q&A. Number 1, go audit your content. Go see if you've got some stuff gated, locked up on your website, and see if you can repurpose that content and make it available for other channels. And then boost that content to your target audience as part of your top of the funnel paid strategy. And then tighten up your primary call to action. Go look at your website, download that user experience guide that we have on that on our landing page, and see what you can do to improve your conversion, primary call to action, and your conversion form. And then finally, number 4, highly encourage you to do this. Join a group. If you're not ready to start a group, then just go join a group so you can see what that's like. If you want to join our group, it's on LinkedIn today. As I mentioned earlier, it's called the Demand Gen Jammers Group. But just join a group, get familiar with how that works, and then start thinking about how you might start a community for your business. Okay, I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to move over to some Q&A. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, I've got some questions that were already teed up. Thank you guys for sending those in before the webcast today. I'll answer those, and then I'll jump over to any questions that you guys have teed up for Andrea to ask me at the end. I also see that we're a little long. I went on some tangents. If you need to drop right now, thank you for your time today. We will be getting a replay of this out to everybody. If you can stick around for the next 10 or 15 minutes, that's great. We'll answer these questions for you, and it'll all be recorded, and we'll make that available to everyone. So thanks for hanging with us, and excited to jump into the Q&A. So here's the first question. How can we use ads to grow our followers on LinkedIn? So great question. And, obviously the person that submitted the question didn't know what I'd be talking about today. But here's where this really fits in. I believe it or not, I think a follower campaign's not a bad idea. It's if you're really wanting to grow followers on like your LinkedIn company page, in my mind, that's a great retargeting strategy. I wouldn't do it for top of the funnel, okay, because they don't know who you are or the promise that you can provide or the problem that you can solve. but rather maybe make it one of your, maybe that's one of the do goals that you have. One of the things I want them to do is follow my company page. And you can actually run follower campaigns on most of the social channels that are out there. I will also tell you this, that just by being active in a full funnel approach like we've talked about today, your followers are going to grow naturally anyways, because people are going to become aware that you exist. They're going to go check out your company page and they're going to follow you. So either one of those are good options. Okay, question number 2. What can we do to differentiate our business with all the noise out there and everyone doing the same thing to get in front of customers? Okay, I really hope that I did a good job answering that question today, because the reality is most B2B companies aren't doing the right things to get in front of customers. They're leveraging old, outdated tactics and really not helping customers make buying decisions. And so if you really want to stand out, the key thing to all of this, in my opinion, is find those 3 to 5 content pillars that really matter, where you're a true subject matter expert, and clearly define your point of view as it relates to those questions that I walked through in that section, and then turn that into useful content, and then run ads to get that information in front of your buyers at the different stages of their journey, and you will be successful and you will stand out over your competition. So I hope that helps. Okay, next question. Can you provide any advice on growing newsletter subscribers? So you know what? This question is a lot like the follower question. So if you're trying to grow newsletter subscribers, in my mind, that's a do thing, right? What is it that I want them to do? So I don't want to do that top of the funnel. I don't want to go after a cold audience and get them to subscribe to my newsletter. I want to go after the cold audience with useful information. When they engage with that, then I want to retarget them with a do message. And that do message might be, hey, subscribe to my newsletter. So that's how I would do that. Okay, next question. There is a lot of free advice out there, and free in quotes, right? Much of it is contradictory. How do you know which way to go? Man, that is a challenging question, right? There's a lot of experts out there. And I think really it comes down to vetting the people that you're listening to. And so when you're trying to find advice, especially free advice, go look at how long that company's been around or what their pedigree is. And if it's somebody that doesn't have a lot of followers on LinkedIn, let's say, and they're telling you how to grow followers on LinkedIn, then I probably wouldn't trust them. But if it's somebody that's been around for 10 or 15 years, that's been doing specifically what you're looking for help with, and they've got that kind of a pedigree, and they've got good references and things like that, recommendations, then that might be somebody that I would listen to. And then I would also just overlay, this is just another thing that came to me, you can't follow everybody's advice exactly the same. Like I just walked you through our playbook, right? And this is the playbook that we use for our clients, but every one of our clients, there's nuance to their business. And so not everything's going to work the same for every client. We have to understand those nuances. And I think it's really important for all of you watching today to even take the advice I've shared with you and overlay your business and think about, well, community may be great for me, or maybe it won't be, or I still need to gate content. That's really up to you. You've got to kind of go through that on your own, but really start with folks that you really trust that are going to give you good advice. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is jump over to, so Andrea, if you can tee up some questions for me, I'm going to jump over to the live chat, see if there's anything I can answer live for everyone. Just a real quick plug, again, please join us next month, October the 11th, for our Demand Gen Jam session. And we'll be talking about the Google Helpful Content Update and how to get your website ready for that. And also be sure to download those resources that we've made available on that page at vendidigital.com/go. So I hope you'll do that. Okay, I'm going to just jump over here real quick and take a look at the questions that are out there. So hang with me here. Come on, mouse. First of all, I got to get my mouse to work. Okay, it's working now. And let's see what we got here. Okay, here's a great question. As a best practice, how many top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel content should be in an automated nurturing campaign? So let me see if I can answer that question real quick here. So the way I think you're asking the question is, how many pieces of content do you need at each stage. And if we're talking about running campaigns, one of the things that we recommend is that we've got at least 4 assets in each of the stages. So if we've got that, what are we trying to, at the top of the funnel, we're answering the question, what do we want them to know? That we're running a minimum of 4 assets answering that question, right? But then you can compile or combine that by different recipes of each of those messages, right? So maybe you've got message A and you want to try long and short form copy. Well, that's 2 versions of message A. Maybe you want to try 2 different headlines. Well, now you're up to 4 different versions of message A. And so I would encourage you, have 4 messages in market at a minimum, but then think about how can you create variations of that message so you can really lean on the different platforms, AI and really optimization capabilities. So hopefully that helps. And that would be true with middle and bottom of the funnel. Now, the one thing about bottom of the funnel, in the way that I outlined it today, I kind of put middle and bottom in the same bucket, if you will. The way that we do that is we try to have 50% of the information that's in that bottom of the funnel, or the content that we're promoting in that bottom of the funnel, that do section. Is 50% of it is useful information and 50% of it is offers. And then we pulse in the offers based on what's going on in our business. And so, like, for example, the last 3 weeks leading up to this event, the offer that we had was, hey, come to this event. And so once this event is over, we're going to move into some alternate offers, if you will, but we'll still have mid-funnel deeper content that we'll promote at that stage. I hope that answers your question. And I'm just going to see anything else. What should you gate or ungate when your B2B is paid online subscriptions that provide training, education, and resources? Christina, great question, and I'm going to try to answer that. So, if you're selling a subscription business and you're trying to understand what should be gated or ungated, so I'm going to try to answer this maybe higher level, and we can always have a one-on-one if you want to get more clarity. But in terms of gating information, here's what should be gated in my mind. When the gate is required to deliver the asset the buyer wants, right? So for example, we gated this webinar. We had to gate this webinar so that we could send you notifications, that we could send you the link so that you could log in, all of that stuff. So there was a business purpose for us gating this webinar, right? So that's one thing. Another thing that you want to think about is this asset showing that this buyer is deeply intent and trying to solve a problem? So things like calculators or tools or resources that are going to help them configure or get more clarity on how to solve their problem. And maybe you want to follow up with them with deeper insights or a report or something like that. Those are great examples of things that you might gate in the mid-funnel. And so, what we're saying is, hey, mid-funnel is still important, but instead of trying to gate everything, encourage people to join your community. And once they join your community, they can have access to everything. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me see if there's any more questions that have popped up here. So I saw, should you ungate everything or anything? Should you ungate everything or some things be ungated? I think we just talked about that. We have a lot of old blog content that last year we unpublished. Most everything was older than 2019. Should we remove it? Okay, so great question. Come to next month's Demand Gen Jam session and we will focus on that. So that's where, we're going to talk about the Google Helpful Content Update and specifically talk about blogs. And guess what? I think old blogs are an absolute gold mine for what Google is trying to do, especially if you wrote them with humans, which I'm guessing you did, and you've got some useful subject matter expertise to share. So, okay, I know we've gone over like 17 minutes, and so I'm going to go ahead and wrap here and just thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know we went a little bit long today. I hope that this was really valuable for you. I certainly enjoy when we do these a couple of times a year. Please join us next month for our Demand Gen Jam session on October 11th, and please go check out the resources that we've got available for you on that landing page. And join us on LinkedIn at the Demand Gen Jammers group. We'd love to see you there. Until next time, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone.